This is Larry Casso, Director of the Baton Rouge Fine Arts Academy. Welcome you to my workshop, study, and the name of this painting is called Marston Place, and specifically I should say, it's Marston Window. And this is a painting of a mansion in Clinton, Louisiana, with quite a bit of history attached to it. It's been fairly well preserved through the years. Many families have lived in it, and a lot of the townspeople have gotten together and tried to keep it in pretty good condition. And but it's a very quaint building. We've sketched it a lot on sketching trips, and there's some history attached to it that I think is worth noting. All of you are going to get a little sheet with this picture on it to use as a reference, and I'm going to give you a little historical reference about this home. But for now, we're going to get on with the preparation for the watercolor, and so let's go ahead and prepare to do that. At the request of the students that I'll be working with in this workshop, it happens to be in Galliano, Louisiana, pretty far down Bayou Lafourche and fairly close to the end of Bayou Lafourche where it comes out by Grand Isle. And many of you, of course, are familiar with this particular area. And so it's by their request, they wanted a watercolor and oil combination painting. I gave them a variety of types of subjects and methods and techniques and whatever that we could work on, and this is what they selected. And this is quite a unique experience, as you are going to see in just a few moments. I remember when I first started doing some watercolor and oil combinations, and that is basically laying in the background with watercolor and much of the base of it, and then letting it dry and coming back in and painting opaquely with oils. And so I was quite successful in my experiments. I was concerned about the permanence of the oil on the watercolor paper, but I was told by several individuals, because of the fact that the oil dried very, very quickly compared to what it would do on watercolor paper, on canvas, I should say. And so when I did the watercolor and I came back over with the oil, even the white was drying very quickly, and I thought that was quite unusual. And I had it explained to me that what takes place when you paint back over this and you dilute the oil to the degree that you do it with turpentine, when you mix your color in the oils and you actually paint the paper with it, something happens that's called flashing. And what it is, it's not something that you can see, but it is a literal explosion that takes place where the alcohol in the turpentine explodes and ignites the turpentine to the degree that there is an explosion not visible to the human eye, but it immediately starts hardening it. And I was told by several people that the permanence is not even in question. So I also was told by quite a few people, when I would tell people that this is what I had done, I was also told that it's not possible to put oil over watercolor. And I had heard this my entire life, and as I explained to them, I know it's not, but I did it. And it works very beautifully, and you find that it covers very, very easily and really is quite nice to work with. And you're going to see a brilliance and a naturalness in the oils over the paper. And so we'll leave this to our future experiences with it. Now, everyone should be ready now with the paper completely transferred. What we did was took some cover sheets and actually put some graphite under the sheets, transferred them, or traced them as you might call it, but it's really transferring it from one image to another. And now we're pretty well ready to paint. Now we're going to start with the watercolor, because the objective in this particular approach is to lay the watercolor in first, and then and let it dry, and particularly try to lay in a lot of darker places in the places you're going to use the oil, and that way you use the darks as an underpainting, and it makes it very easy to paint over it, to actually have the paint I think work for you a lot easier than it does in normal circumstances. So what we're going to do is, first of all, let's talk a little bit about our palette. We're using 300-pound Arches watercolor paper, and the watercolor paper is a brand of watercolor paper that has been produced now for about 500 years. It's made in France. It's called handmade, mold-made watercolor paper. It has a sizing to it. It'll take misket, scraping, things like this. It's always been my favorite, as well as the favorite of artists throughout the world historically for many, many years. If we look on the screen, you'll see how I've laid my palette out for you. Now, one of the unique things we do is we only use 5 colors: black, white, and I do put a little bit of alizarin crimson in, because you can't get the 3 primary colors that I use, red, yellow, and blue, to produce a crimson. So we're going to use an alizarin crimson as one of our colors. But basically, this is going to be a 5-color watercolor. Now, I teach art, and I guess I've been successful with it. I've taught over 13,000 people in the last 35 years in Baton Rouge and Mandeville, where I have my schools. But I don't think it's really all that big a deal, from the standpoint that if you just teach art the way you eat an elephant, it's really very easy, okay? And basically what I mean by that is one bite at a time. So many people are overwhelmed when they look at paintings and they see the complexity of them, that they automatically are turned off. Well, there's no way I'd ever be able to do something like that. And that's true with many things, with all of us in life, because you know, when things look too complex, we don't tend to really want to attempt them and feel pretty ignorant about them, in fact. But with what we're going to do, you're going to find that I'm going to teach you one section at a time. And we're going to do this as a group. We have 25 people here. And it was quite a challenge to come up with an idea on how I'll be able to use 25 people. I normally have an associate that works with me that is not able to make it. And so consequently, it's really going to be a challenge, and it's going to be very fun. So what I do is I break it down into small doses. This is our format. We're going to begin with a certain area, and I'm going to keep it in small doses. And I'm going to paint this area and cover it the way that I want to cover it, whatever that might happen to be. And then we're going to stop, let everyone in the class do it simultaneously. I'll walk around checking with you, and but we'll do simple steps that are very easy to understand and follow, and it won't be very long, and you're going to see it really beginning to come together. In fact, it's not really that complicated, to be truthful with you. So we'll go ahead and begin the process now, and but let's go back to our colors before I forget that. This is going to be, I'm using the M. Graham watercolors. Now, these are watercolors that are made according to a traditional method, historically that is, where honey was used as a binding medium instead of other things that have been used throughout history. And so this is pigment that starts in a powdered form, literally held together with honey. And you're going to love it. The pigment that Art Graham, who's the one that founded this and makes this product, actually puts a lot more pigment in his work. The colors are rich, they're luscious, and I think you're going to enjoy them if you've never used them before. And we're going to start with Hooker's Green, cadmium yellow light, cadmium red, light, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, black, alizarin crimson, and white. Okay, we've got 4 primary brushes that I had the students get, and that's going to be a number 4 brush, a 1/2-inch flat brush, a number 4 brush like this, and a number 2. Actually 3 brushes. Oh, excuse me, I forgot my number 8. Let's start that process again. Okay, we're going to start with, here are the 4 brushes, and let's get this a little closer. I think everyone knows this. And by the way, I'm making a DVD of this, and this is what we're going to watch on the video. And I can break it, freeze it. You're going to have individual pictures to look at that are very helpful. So we're going to start like this and look at our 4 brushes. That's a 1/2-inch flat, a number 8 round, a number 4 round, and a number 2 round. I just happen to have a number 6 round here. If any of you have one, they're good to use as an in-between brush, but really I don't use them very much. So these are the 4 brushes that we're going to start with. I already explained the paint to you, and I will continue now and go ahead and get this thing started. Now, I had mentioned to you about getting a brush that you could use that for putting on flat washes. Okay, and of course there's an open variety of things that you could use. There's one that I like. It's a 1.5-inch brush, and I think it's a, I'm having a little trouble reading this on the light here, but it's let's see, I have another one over here that's not been opened yet, and I can't read it any better, but I think it's a Winsor Newton. It's a number 965. And this is probably about a $50 brush now, but what makes it unusual is the fact that when you wet it, let's just get a little water over here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It dipped it in the water, and when you wet it, so I'm going to dip this on a paint. Okay, what happens is you get a nice chisel edge this way. See if I can get on the screen. I think we can go back up a little bit now. Not ready to go professional with this movie making, but it'll get the job done. Okay, this is the brush. Okay, it's just like a chisel here, but you cannot imagine, because it's the only one I've ever found that goes in this way also. And I can paint many small areas that you would never believe with this large brush and cover a lot of territory. Now, first thing we want to do, let's look at our picture. Let's see if we can see this fairly clearly if I hold it up to you like this. The first thing I want to start with is we're going to begin. Now this is going to be a little bit unconventional, but we're going to begin by coming along this area here, and I want to put a light yellow wash over this whole bottom area up to here, and then I'm also going to put a little bit of it in here and a little bit of it in here, and then we'll see how the time goes. I'm going to take an alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue wash, and I'm going to start doing some of the first part of this background area and this section over here. Okay, so let's begin with that. Now I'm going to use my larger brush. Some of you may feel a little bit more comfortable. Let's see if I can even get this on, because what I'd like you to see, for years I've made these things. I'd kind of put it up closer in the picture, but a lot of people have requested that I show a little bit more about how I mix the colors and what I do, so that's what we're going to do. Now, step 1. Take a little bit of the cadmium yellow. And I'm just going to use this 1/2-inch brush because some of you might feel a little bit more comfortable with it. And what we're going to do, you don't need a lot. And so we're just going to, in fact, what you could do is just take your, let's just take your brush, your large brush that you want to wet it with. Let's wet everything down. We don't want to get too tightly work too tightly in this thing. We just want to really layer it in there loosely, confidently. And as I said, I'll be around to help you and going from table to table. And as you're going to see, it's almost impossible to ruin this if you learn to approach it correctly. Okay, now I'm going to start like this. And now you're going to find this paper's got a sizing in it, so it takes a little while, a couple of strokes like this for it to work in. And this is going to work a lot better. All right, now let's take our yellow. Now I don't care if it runs over this line a little bit here. Okay, we're going to do this. Take a little yellow, come all the way down. We're going to come all the way across here. And maybe just kind of outline where this is going to be. I'm not really that interested in being too perfect with it. And then as we come across the bottom of it, we'll just bring our yellow down like this the same way, and have a little bit of it over here. Now we're not going to worry about bringing it down here too much into the flowers, because we're going to cover them with the darker color later. All right, we're starting with our yellow. Now, since we only have a little bit of yellow on this, if you'll notice, I'm going to the burnt sienna now. Okay, and I'm going to take a little plain burnt sienna, and while it's wet, this color dries very lightly, so I'm just going to kind of break it up a little bit. I want it real bright, but I thought around those edges, since I recropped this from my original painting, we might want to show a little bit of the brown. Now I want you to notice is that as we come over here, okay, we're going to just have an area starting here. Let's not make that too heavy, but it dries lightly. Now remember that. We just want it to come all the way down, and if you'll notice on the photograph here, this is going to come to just about right below this portion right here. Now you don't have to worry if it goes over a little bit or something like that. That doesn't really make any difference, because we're going to come back and cover all of this up. Okay, now having done that, let's get some practice paper. And we'll need to remember to get some over there. I'll try to remember to bring some for you. I'll make a note of that in a minute. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, and I'm going to put my next coat. Okay, now that's got a little red in it. Doesn't really matter if it comes out with more red. You know, when you stop like this and you analyze it, here's the blue and here's the alizarin. The thing I love about this thing, if you just use a few colors, like for instance, if we're using just 2 colors, the great thing I like about it is you're never going to be more than halfway wrong. Okay, now let's come on across here like this. We can be fairly dark with this. Now I know this is going to run over a little bit, and it's going to kind of shock you what I do in a minute, but that's okay. Now we're taking this color and we're bringing this down like this. Okay, and then let's take it across the top. We're going to do the same thing, and then we want to kind of bring it in right here where it starts making that shadow from the edge of the now notice I'm going to put that on there like that and clean it, and then I'm going to just smooth this over in here like this. Okay, now I'm only doing 2 steps. Okay, this probably some of y'all are thinking, well, I wish you would be covering so much territory, but it's really not that difficult once you get into it. Okay, now we're going to do this and this. Okay, now I want to also come down, and at this particular point up here, we get some of this color starting to run. It kind of comes to like maybe right here. We don't have to try to be too perfect with it. And then sort of comes down and comes all along the end of this. Now, of course, this is going to show up quite a bit over this yellow at the top, but we're not going to worry about that, as you're going to see in a minute. Likewise, I'm going to do this. Now I want to just come right on down, and I want to just cover this entire area here. Okay, and we'll just do this. Now some of this I could have, well, I'll show you how I'll do that later. I wanted to leave a little bit more of a zigzag situation here, but we'll do that later. Now, come back again. Let's mix the red, and let's mix, the blue and the red. Okay, and we're going to look at our picture again. It comes all the way across the bottom like this. And actually what we want to do, I shouldn't have even worried about putting that yellow down there, because we're going to come in and just make this, for right now, not really dark, but just make it a darker type color. Now, as I'll come down here, I'll bring this all the way down. I'll start bringing it around like this, kind of leaving one area here where the light is breaking through, and then we'll just, some of that blue didn't mix real well, so no big deal. Now we're going to come back over here and layer this on here like this. And cover this whole area up. Okay, now let's kind of get this rather liquid. We can get a little ultramarine blue, a little bit of crimson. And I think that's pretty much all the ultramarine blue I want. And we're just going to come along this side over here. Now this is almost going to be dry. Doesn't really matter. It's damp enough that if you move it quickly, we can come on and do this right here. And then this is going to get relatively light at the bottom, so we can do this even dry brush some of it. Sort of let this all run together, and as I said, leave our little light area coming through at the base of this like this. Okay, now this is going to be a good stopping point for you. And I think we're going to go ahead and stop now, because you're going to be kind of surprised what a few of the things we do. Before we do that though, we got enough of this this mixture here that's running okay. Let's take and put a little bit of the red in here, and we want to start showing some of the discoloration in the wall. Okay, so I'm going to come down like this, and then we're going to just do this, and maybe take a little bit of the plain alizarin crimson. We don't want to make this too dark now, keeping it very simple. Just show it like this. Got a lot of wear and tear. I'm going to come up here while this is wet, just break this up. We're going to have a lot more of this through these other areas. But for now, I just wanted to get that subdued area there for us real well, because some of the other part we might do it with the paper dry. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay, now since I did this part here, I'm going to come on back, and we're going to just go ahead and do this entire bottom area. Now see, this is dry, don't worry about it. This is the area we're going to paint over completely. Now, I did something here I hope I don't regret, but I can figure it out. Sometimes when you do things like this, it looks like you lose your lines, but in reality, you don't, and I think they'll all come back out again when this completely dries. So this is a good stopping point. Let's go ahead and stop now. All of you should have a reproduction of this, and we'll go ahead and let's begin the painting from your end of it. So let's go ahead and pause it. Okay, as we pick up our next session, we're going to come in while we're using our blue and our red. We're going to add a little bit more burnt sienna to it. Now what I did from the break to when I came back, I noticed that I was really losing my lines from just transferring it, so I will already have made you all aware of that, and I went back and pretty much covered all the lines again. Now what we're wanting to do here, we're wanting to come all the way down this area on the side, and it's going to be a little bit lighter, so we're going to want to mix this darker mixture though, because this is going to be our base coat. It's quicker to do this with watercolor. Now let's pull this down, lighten it a little bit, maybe lighten it a lot, where we can make sure the lines show through. Just bring it straight on down. That's a good value right there. Because see, we don't really need to get it extremely dark here. We just want it to be consistent and be dark enough that we can either lighten it or darken it. That's what you do with a middle tone like this. You just create a situation where you can lighten it or darken it, but not lose the distinction of what's underneath your material there. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. Now we're going to just come right over here, and we're going to do the same thing up here. We're going to bring it down somewhat darker than we have it in the regular part of the background. Now let's get a little bit more of our blue. And get a little bit more of our red. And notice we're not wetting this, we're just coming straight down. Now what we want to basically do is just cover all of this. So we're just going to be very liberal with it. We're not trying to be too clean, or I like the sharp edges because I want to be able to continue to look at what I'm looking at here and see the dimensions that I want. Now whatever way is easier for you to do this. Over here I'm going to start. Now you can, some people, that's get a little too diluted. So once you get a certain value, now you're going to learn a lot about consistency and things like this today in this workshop, that if you haven't done a lot of watercolor, you can begin to see how it doesn't have to be repeated perfectly, but you really do have an ability to come in and change different things according to what you would like them to be. And even though the color may look like it's a little different when it dries, because of the fact that you're going to layer over it and layer over it, it doesn't really matter. Now see, this is perfect. This is giving me a nice, almost like an underpainting that you would use in oil. Now I've just mixed a burst of red there. I kind of like those dark pretty reds in my shadows, so that isn't going to hurt anything. Main thing I want to do is I want my shadow to be consistent as far as the value goes. I don't care if it's not even. Just as I said that, like my granddaughter used to tell me, you stay in the line really good, Pop. Well, I didn't that time. She'd watch me doing pencil sketching and things like that, and that was her profound comment one day. I stayed in the line. She was about 3 years old. Thought I was doing pretty good. You see what I was telling you about up in here? There's some red and all. I love that. That was an accident, but it's a little happy accident. Now let's just make sure we cover all these areas here. Now I kind of made the outline of the flowers, floral area below pretty light, purposely so I didn't lose it. But I really want it, I made the outside line, the pencil lines, I want it to be a little bit darker. So we're going to kind of pull this down now, like this and like this. Have this a little bit out here. And now we want a resemblance. Now I can see, even though this looks like I might have gotten a little bit dark, you can really see that it's covering it very nicely and doing just what I want it to do. Now this again still just the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna, excuse me, the ultramarine blue and the cadmium red with a little bit of the burnt sienna, and I'll just kind of, I'm going to probably go over a lot of the floral area down here later, but for now I just wanted to pretty well cover it, have this as a connected area value wise, and then you'll see later what we'll do is we add the oils to it. So we're going to come on down like this. Okay, now we've got everything that we want there. I don't want to get this too much darker. Now this will be our last thing. So we're just blocking in now, so that's really, but notice how I've got the lights connected, I've got the middle tones connected, and then I've got this dark area connected there that's going to kind of carry our painting. Now, the last thing, I want to take a little burnt sienna. I think y'all can still see this on the paper. Now, when we do the object, well, I'll show you from, I don't know where my little sheet is here. Oh, here it is. Okay, when we do this object over here, this was either a gutter, a spout, or a, I never could figure out, it was pretty badly, possibly something that would drain the water down from the top of the roof. But it had gotten deteriorated, but I put it in there because of the interesting part of it. So what we want to do now, we want to get it covered pretty lightly, and every now and then we might let a little bit of the white show. But for our purposes now, we're just going to come in and put this lightest area. Now see what's going to be nice about this. As I get through blocking it in, I've got 3 sections that we're going to be working, and the nice thing about it is that when I can work with you and help you to do the individual sections, I won't have to do every bit of this to show you this. So you're going to find that really after a certain point you're not even going to want to look at this thing anymore, believe it or not. You're going to begin to catch on, but I'm going to just, instead of doing the whole thing, I'm going to just do one part of each section on the video. You'll see what I'm talking about a little bit later. And then of course that'll just leave me free time to come around and work with you individually, and not having quite as much time on the video. But now remember, each one of you are going to get a DVD to take home, and so you can look at it, go back and review it. We're going to finish with a 2-day workshop like this. We're all going to finish it together. As I come down, I'm going to kind of let this lower. Just fade it down here. Okay, now that's basically our second section that we're doing. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but even though this is really a little darker in spots than I intended for it to be, it's really still where I can see the lines through it. That's the main thing I was interested in. Okay, let's take a break and let's do this next part. Okay, as we show you our next area here, I think I'm going to zoom the screen in a little bit. Let you see this in a little more detail. We're going to start looking at your photo at this top area up here. Now, I'm going to do this area completely, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a little bit of this area, enough for you to see a section. You can do the rest. A little bit of this area, you can do the rest, okay? And that way we can move along a little bit more quickly and don't have to spend quite as much time with the actual painting of it, and more time for us to paint. And I'm going to move this over a little bit. We're not going to be as closely in tune with the, let's just put it like this now. We're not going to be as concerned about how to mix the color, because you should know how to mix the color by now, pretty much. Okay, let's again take our blue, and let's take our crimson, and this time And we'll take a little bit of brown to kind of neutralize it and tone it down, gray it down a little bit. This time we're going to start pretty dark. When I say pretty dark, now I don't mean, now see, I'm mostly using this 1/2 inch brush through this whole painting, which is sufficient. For what we're doing, because we're not working detailed sections and we're not working really big sections. I would have used the big brush and done it a little bit faster, but that's not really what we're interested in right now. Okay, now let's just come down a little bit here. I want you to notice that as I bring it down closer to this part of it here, bring it a little bit darker here, bring it over. Okay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to just kind of lightly soften that edge. I'm cleaning my brush now. I want to soften that edge as it comes down. Okay, so let's just mix some of this in here, let it run. Still, I want it to be very, very loosely done. Take a little bit of this water now and maybe smooth this out. There's a little bit of that edge showing there. Okay, now again, I'm not really looking for perfection on this. Maybe just lift a little bit of it up like that where it'll be a little bit softer. Then we're going to come across here and we're going to come around the opposite end and we're going to do this and this. And then we're going to let this color come over here and do the same thing. It's going to start fading a little. So let's get a little bit more, I think, of that sienna and that crimson in there. Now, so let's make sure this is pretty wet. All right, now, take my brush again. Now notice I'm just scrumbling. Let's make sure you can see that. Just wetting the brush, cleaning it. My water's not even real clean. It wouldn't hurt to have clean water, but you don't need it. See, and I'm gonna let this come down around here, soften the edges quite a bit, and let's let it just fade pretty well here. Okay, now here's where I have a little fun. It's still wet, solid green. I got some yellow mixed up in there, but maybe that's what I needed. Okay, let's take some solid green. I'm going to lift some of this out of here a little bit because it was quite a bit lighter than what I wanted. And then, but it'll probably dry okay, but I'm just going to come back in and tone it down with that violet looking color. Now I don't want this to be real defined, okay? And then I'll take, this time again, I'll take a little bit of solid green over here. Now, you're wondering by now, well, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? Well, because all across the bottom I'm going to have greenery coming up, see? So I want to paint this greenery in here and then let it fade. And now I'll also take a little bit of pure alizarin crimson. And if you're wondering why I would do that, the only answer I can give you is why not. Okay, now some of these areas that may not be quite as, this was drying a little bit, so some of it may not be quite like I would like it to be. So I'll just come back and maybe because it was drying a little bit too much, whatever, it doesn't matter. Nothing's cast in stone. I'll just kind of bring this back like this and fade all of this out and down. Primary thing is I want to come up with a value up there that really is dark and it's going to hold that picture in the way that I want it to be held in. Now as I come down here I can see where this blue I just did is starting to fade a little, so I'll just kind of take a little bit of that and put that in there. Now you're thinking, well man, this guy's crazy. Why in the world is he just putting all these blobs in here? Well, if you'll notice in the watercolor, this is really the way this is, you see. Now I noticed I had a little green up here, and I can't, you never can repeat it exactly, but I want to have a little bit of dry brush green coming down. I like that. I was probably in a frenzy when I did it, and heard some voices tell me to go ahead and do that, and I did it. Maybe a little bit too much green, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, now, again, there's some areas in here I got a little too solid when I messed up with it, getting a little yellow and that green. So hey, it's no big deal. You just come back in like this, you pull it up. Over here, some of it's a little bit lighter. Okay, there we go. We just want it not to be monotonous. That's the main thing. So I'll come back with a little bit of lighter blue now. And see, it's a textured old wall, so what's going to hurt it? You can do just about whatever you want to do to it. Okay, let's let that dry and let you do that part right there. Okay, I wanted you to get a look at this as I on the TV screen as I continue with it, because the next thing I intend to do is I'm going to do just a small section here, let you do it, and that way I'm going to come watch y'all. Then we're going to do a little small section up here, let you do it. Now when we get through with that, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and we're going to very quickly do this area and right here and finish it. When I get through with that, the only thing we're going to really have left to do is the oil. And you're going to find using this as a background, it's really very, very simple, and we'll certainly look forward to it. Okay, let's start again. Keep putting blue out there. I'm using a lot of blue, but it's a very pretty color, and you mix it with that alizarin. I just love the mauve effects you get with it. And so let's come down here. Now, always remember, one of the things in watercolor that you want to try to do that I think works very, very well is when you're going to do an area like this, you don't want it to be a solid mass. This is where so many people make a mistake when they're doing oils, and they try to watercolor rather. They try to do it like an oil. And I think, let's see if the glare's not on this too badly. This is my sheet enlarged. I have a wonderful copy here that I can do this with. But you can see this outer edge here, it's got a lighter color and it's got a lot of red in it. Then I came in and I put it almost solid close to the middle and let it fade out. This is what we want to aim for here. Now, if I don't get some of the parts to work out exactly like I want to on the get a little bit more red in this on the area where this light is cast down, I'll come back with opaque paint later and do it, you see. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to just come in, and as I said, I'm only going to do a small amount. This is going to be a much lighter version. Come down like this, okay, and actually I want to just do enough of this to get it going here. And this is where I'll try to get that that effect that I got in mind that I just kind of, I don't know why, I just liked it, but I think you just have to be crazy sometimes to do this to begin with, so it doesn't matter. But I'm going to do this. Now, clean my brush, softening that edge with pure water. You see, and I want it to be distinct, but I really don't want it to be overpowering like it would. So I'll just come on down like that. I'll leave it a little darker down here, that's fine. But I wanted that closer to this top area to be just a little bit more subdued. And we'll come up kind of like this a little bit. Now, this is basically what I want to do, and this you might want to do in sections. Now, sometimes it's a little easier to turn this around, okay, and we'll zoom in a little bit closer on this, and take our, I always like to keep my picture close by that I'm looking at, and let's turn that upside down where I can really see what I'm doing here. Now this area, I think you can see it on the screen very well. Now, this is where I'm going to have my ultramarine blue and my burnt umber, my burnt sienna, my alizarin crimson, except this is going to be more of the alizarin. I'm going to put a little burnt sienna with it, but I'm going to put a little black with it also. I don't use a lot of black, but I like to occasionally do it when I know I really want to get a really dark area. Now notice immediately when I come up with this like this. Look at how that, I'm probably in the way of the video, but look at how that edge of that thing starts to stand out. And then I'm just going to drag this along here, kind of like this. And then I might come in and take areas where it's not too monotonous and just fade it out a little bit, see? But it's going to be subdued now. It's going to blend in with this other area. Let's take a little bit more like this. And that's really what we're trying to do at this point, okay? So that's where we're going to stop, and I'm going to let you do that, and then I'm going to come back and do the finished part of it without the video. Let's do it. And now you do this, and then just keep going right all the way on down to the bottom. And you can see on the bottom, it all just runs around here and really acts to bring that out down here. Okay, let's go ahead and stop it. Okay, now I'm going to do the area over here. I noticed that as it dried, I didn't get a lot of that red to show up. So I'm going to come back. I like that red in there. And I'm going to come back now, and I'm going to use a little more cadmium red, which is a little stronger red. It's not as transparent. So that red's going to be a pretty important part of it. Okay, by now, you should have come down and done all of this area down here in the colors that I had and in the darker part on the bottom, okay? Make sure you can see that on the screen. You should have been doing this part. You should have already done this. Okay, now I think this is going to be fine. See, again, people think watercolor's something that you just absolutely can't do anything with, but as far as erasing and things like that, but that's a bunch of baloney, as we just proven right now. Okay, you can change things, you can do a lot of different things. Now, I don't know if I exactly am happy with this part, but I'm not going to worry about it. Now, when I come along that right side, I'm going to come back in there with my red, same basic colors, okay, and my alizarin crimson, my ultramarine blue. Just going to darken it slightly, and I'm not going to have it quite as dark in this corner. And just let that come over like that. See, we're going to pretty much let that just follow all the way down. Now I'm going to come back, and I'm using the cadmium red, like I had mentioned before, instead, and that's going to stay with it a little bit better. And I'm going to use a lot of it. I'm going to kind of fill it in here and give it a lot more excitement. Maybe come in with a little plain burnt sienna even, okay? But I think the cadmium red will do what we want. Now, I want to get that blue again. Come across here. I want to get that alizarin crimson. That's okay on this, because we're going to take the blue and the alizarin crimson. Let's just do the black. While this is wet, I really want this corner to have these dark edges. And I want this to really hold your eye in. And then this is just going to be kind of broken up and just some whatever color. Okay, I'll put some here, a little bit here, you know, and not really, sometimes I'll leave it just plain. This, we don't want to really get too carried away. Just something that's interesting, we lose it. Okay. Now, from the standpoint of our photograph, we're going to do the same thing. I think y'all can see this okay. Whoop, let me get this on the screen correctly. Okay, from the standpoint of our photograph, we're going to do this all the way along this. I've got it upside down now, all the way down here, and get lighter and lighter as it goes towards the bottom. Now you're You're going to see this in the picture that we look at as far as the finished painting. Okay, let's go ahead and stop now and let y'all go ahead and do that part of it. Okay, as we pause and look at the painting now, I went ahead and did the background very quickly. As I mentioned, I just, when I get to this point, I've had too many experiences doing this, knowing that by the time we get here, most everybody's not even looking at the video, they're looking at the picture, because all we're doing is repeating it. But I think with the mat around it, you really can begin to see this thing really coming alive. And primary thing I wanted, I have the real bright lights here. I have the underpainting, I have the bright lights here. I'm going to have some lights along this thing. I'm getting ready to do this with you in just a moment. I'm going to have some lights along this thing right here. But then this is leaving me with a real subdued area. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised and excited, really, when you see how I can go in there now and just glaze oils over this with minimal amount of effort, even down here in the foliage area. It's going to be one of the easiest things that you've ever done in your life as far as finishing it, and I hope you all are enjoying this right now as much as I'm enjoying it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second here, get everything ready to do this last section, and then we're going to go ahead and get it done. Okay, as I go to this next section with you, I want you to notice, hope you can see this okay. All right, we can. I'm going to stand where I can make sure it's on the screen. I have like I said, surely I'm not a movie director. Move my finger down. All right, notice that I'm really giving the illusion of the light hitting and coming around, going all the way down here. Notice how I purposely lost all this up here in shadow. Now, when you see me do this, I might do one part and a little bit part of the next section. Then you just have to go down and look at values. Remember, painting is about decisions. It's not about technique. You know, and you have to understand what's light, what's middle, and what's dark. And if it's light, you leave it light. If it's middle tone, you need it middle tone. But don't be like so many people that they really are underconfident, they don't know what they're doing, and they never get to the dark. And that's what gives you your real quality in your paintings. So we're going to see this is going to be subdued to the point it almost blends in with the background. And I think that's a very important part to recognize about that. Okay, now as we come down, we're going to take that burnt sienna, and I kind of like adding that red to it like that. Okay, most of this coming down is going to be subdued. Okay, so we start with a wash like this, and then when we get to this highlight area here, we just sort of start coming across with it where it follows this light. Okay, so we'll come in, and first thing we'll do is subdue all of this. So, you know, what I love to do, this is kind of like my middle tone. Then I might come in here and dry brush a little color in, just because this thing was so beat up and everything that, you know, you can just play with it any way you want to. Now, I know I'm not afraid to do this because I'm planning to come in with some pretty strong darks on the other side. Now, next thing I want to do is I'm going to get my blue, red, and brown, and I'm just going to hit it right on top of this while it's wet. See, I'll just create certain, make sure that's on the screen for you. I'm just going to create certain textures and everything in here. Just sort of bring that down. I can already see I need a little more blue. It's too red for the shadow effect that I want. So I'm going to do this like this. Okay, and then I'm going to bring it right out to the edge and just curve it right around like it really is a cast shadow flowing with this thing. Now see, when I get to the edge like that, I'll let that show a little bit, but I'm not really interested in that part showing up too much against the background. Now I might take a little bit more of the red now and tone some of this down, bring some of this in like this, you know, just add some general texture to it. But I'm not really interested in doing a whole lot with this particular section. I just want to create dark, middle tone, light, okay? If I want some other light in there. I'm not afraid to make it too dark. I'm going to come back in with my my oils, okay? Now, same way, we're going to come back around here. We're going to start to go down, and maybe not as strongly because this is catching a lot more light, but we're going to still, let's get a little bit more of that red. We're not giving that red an even shake, I don't think. So let's come around like this. I'm going to bring this down to about here. Okay? And this one I may go ahead and just finish the whole area with you because it's relatively simple. Okay, now notice after I put that in there, I'm going to go to, notice everything I've done here, I've done with a 1/2" brush. If I was doing a bigger painting, believe it or not, I would have been using that large 1.5" brush. Okay, now let's go to the ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, a little bit of black. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to use some more of my rich red colors in here. I'm going to make some of this a little bit darker. Let's get some more red and some more of this, less water. I just start pulling a few things in here that I think really sort of jazz it up. And I didn't come down far enough to do too much more at this point, so we'll just leave it. But what I want to do now, I want to mix a solid ultramarine blue, and we'll get some of that burnt sienna to darken it. And this I want just to be dark. I'm going to put black in. I'm not really looking for color. I want this to kind of tone the color down a little bit. So I'm going to come around this edge, and then you're going to see where I'm going to just pull this up like this, and then where this comes around the edge here, I'm just going to pull it like there's a little shadow area right here, cutting into that. See? And what I'll do is I'm just going to round it out like it's got a cast shadow there. See, and here's the way you do that. You come out and you do that. You just can't be afraid to put it dark enough, see? And then I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to let it be solid here, but then I'm going to start subduing it as it comes around here, see? And then likewise, I'm going to come on the opposite side here, and I'm going to just make a line. I'm going to make a very distinct line along here, and then I'm going to just extend some of this into that red darker red I've already put down. Maybe a little bit of this I'll bring across here. You know, and I'm really not following any particular plan. Now I'll start with another darker section down here, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and break away from what I told you, and I'm going to move on down and finish this thing all the way to the bottom. So let's go to the next section. And remember, now see, some of my lines are not real crisp, but I pretty well know where they're going to be going. So here I'm going to come again, see? I'll come in now to give it the roundness that I want it to have. Every now and then I'll hit with a couple of little round areas like that. Some of those whatever areas, doesn't make any difference. Okay, and then I'm going to come in, and again I'm going to hit with that kind of burnt sienna color. Come all the way down like this. And then as it gets towards the bottom, now again up in here, I'm going to get a cast shadow, so I'm going to make allowances for that. But before I go too much further, I'm going to get my blue and my brown and my black. Okay, and I'm going to come along this side here, and I'm going to be very emphatic with some of the things that I'm doing here. Doesn't matter really what they do or how they come out. Some of this is a little wet. I'm going to just follow this with an interesting area, and I'm going to let you fill in the detail. It doesn't really matter what it is. Okay, now here we have some of this coming in like this. Some of it gets pretty wide as it comes down here. Okay, and then some of it maybe we'll bring into that red, break it up a little bit. Okay, and then I don't want this to be that distinct against this back edge, so I'm going to add a little water to it, subdue it, break it up a little bit, subdue it up there. So I'm going to let all of that run together. I don't want you looking at that part. That's not that critical of an area. Okay, now I already feel like I'll know better when I look at it later that I might like to have some of this a little bit lighter, but That's the part that's fun to do with the oils. Okay, now we have another large major section. So make sure I'm in the screen. We have this major shadow coming across here we want to pick up. Okay, so then that's really critical. So we're going to take the blue and the brown and the black again. And this is decrepit to the point that we've actually got some of this part kind of sticking out here. Okay, and then it's going to kind of start coming down around the outside. So we don't need to be afraid to use our, and then it's going to kind of come like this and back in again. And whatever it's doing, you know, who knows? Who cares? So we're going to come in like this. Now, once I get this in, I'll begin to draw some of the shadow from that coming around here. See, and I'll let that just blend out very lightly. Now, I didn't leave a few little white specks and things like that in there. But, you know, I mean, I don't even know what it is, much less worry about what the detail is. I just want some abstract shapes. You know, I could do it with watercolor by taking a little bit of yellow and a little bit of brown, but that defeats the purpose of it. It's too much work like this. I can take a little white, okay, but it just never looks the same as far as what we're doing here as it does with the oils. And this is what I'm trying to teach you. So we can come back in, pick in a few little areas like this, but it always looks a little muddy, and have a little bit of this coming out of here. You know, let it all run together. So we're going to wait, have some fun with that with the oils. Now, as I come down to this last portion of this, we're going to let this just subdue itself, and let this part here subdue itself, and all of the areas pretty well run together. Now, I might want to take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my white, and sort of like around this area here, some of that could come out a little bit. Say, now you can touch this up very nicely with your, see, that's really the color that I want. You can pick a little bit of this out of here, you know, and we'll do both. We'll come back and do a little oil later. You'll see the difference in what it does, but it'll kind of pick out that little extra. See, big thing on this, when it dries, it's going to dry a lot lighter. Okay, but I got a little bit more of that reddishness in there that's really in it, so I'm going to come out here like this. But again, no big deal, one way or the other. Now this kind of gets real abstract coming down. Make sure we're on the screen, and not really showing a lot of pattern to it. So let's just go ahead and plan on losing this. So that comes in like that. Now I might take a little bit of this brown, tiny bit of white, just to kind of show this sort of coming around here, which I don't even know if I needed to do that. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to start coming out now, and I'm going to go back to that blue and that brown, and that, excuse me, that red. If I did by mistake, but it doesn't matter, then the black. Okay, now this gets to be a little bit really subdued down here. So I'm going to do that like this. I'm going to take a little something with a little more red in it, and I'm going to come out. I'm going to start subduing some of these shadows, softening that, and I, you know, again, I know when I do this texture stuff like this, I don't want to ever come and try to repeat it exactly. It just doesn't work, and it's just not necessary. So this just sort of disappears down here. We're going to let it disappear. Okay, now I'm going to turn it around for just a moment, and I might want to come in, take a little bit of my darker tone here, and like some of these areas I might want to make it like that and let it kind of blend together, and then lose it and pick it up again. Turn it over and subdue this coming out. You know, just try to do things that make it look different and interesting and so forth. Now, again, I know it doesn't look like a lot from the standpoint of it, you wanting it to really begin to maybe see a little bit more on it than you see right now. But when we come up, bring it up like this. Okay, and then we put the mat on, and even without doing anything to the middle of the picture, okay, all of a sudden, let's get that in there correctly. Okay, all of a sudden, this is subdued to the point, and we're getting pretty exciting movement. It's coming down here. It's not going to compete with this. Bringing your eye here, you pick it up here, you pick it up back here again. Doing just what I wanted to do in terms of making you go around the picture, making your eye flow with the picture. And when we do it and bring all this down here and you have this glorious looking foliage coming up, see, the primary thrust of this is to bring your eye to this point. And that's all it's created for. I'm very satisfied. I'm ready to start the oil. I think it's a good stopping point to put it up for tonight, and I'll finish it in the morning very briefly. Thank you so much. Now, as we begin the next portion of our recording here, what I'd like to do is dispel a few rumors that people and misconceptions that people have about watercolor. First of all, I'm going to take this piece of tape and let me get an X-Acto knife. And we're going to put it on here like this. This is not extremely critical that it be too perfect. And then we'll come up a little bit with some of it here. I think that ought to be sufficient for that. Now, in the process of painting this, I inadvertently put too much. I made this a little bit darker than it should have been, so I'll just show you how easy it is to just take your brush and move it around like that. And if you want to even go a little further and lift it up, see how easy it comes up like that. And because what we are going to have is some objects here that are going to be darker than what's behind it, and it added a little bit more flow to it, I think, and so we wanted to remove that. And then you'll see a little bit later how effective that is. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to get a little bit of color out. Starting fresh with the application of our oils today. But along with it, I want to get out a little burnt sienna watercolor. This is just something that I'm doing. We'll do on yours later as necessary. Let's get these colors in a row here. Okay, here's a little burnt sienna, and we'll take a little bit of ultramarine blue. And I think that's going to pretty well take care of what I want to do right now. Okay, now as I looked at my little study, I realized that we've got a little bit of a conflict I want to clear up, because up here, this area really should fuse together almost with the background. That's what's nice about having these studies. And we'll just have it come down and fade like that. Maybe soften that edge a little bit. Just blend it on down. It just broke the monotony of this section, Might take a little bit more blue than I do brown. Kind of glaze a little bit of color up here. Tone some of that down a little bit. And maybe have a little more definition in here. Not really anything all that spectacular. Now, in addition to that, a little later on, I do want to come in and see. What bothered me was the fact I had it darker here, and then kind of had this activity, a lot of activity in this area here, and then I picked up the light again, and it just kind of ran into a monotonous thing that I like a lot better with it like it is. Now, another thing that it's not a big deal. While we're doing this, I'll just do it all at one time. I can lift a little bit of color here. Now it's just a little white area that kind of came around here, a lighter area I should say, and blended into this that I liked. I felt like added to that corner and broke it up a little bit. Yeah, so I told you, you don't have to be weird to do this. It helps though. Okay. Now some of these areas I want to get a little bit more ultramarine blue in. Let me just see some of the browns. Put some black in here, and some of the black I think diluted the color a little bit more than I wanted it. So we're going to just take some pure ultramarine blue. Add a little bit of brown to it maybe, just to tone it down. And then likewise, we're just going to continue all the way around here like this. Now that's just a few things that were bugging me that I felt should be dealt with. And then I think, having said that, we'll just go ahead and leave it. Now later I'm going to come back and touch up a couple of areas over here that I like, I feel are important, but we don't want to get bogged down with detail now. So let's go ahead and leave it. I'm going to set the watercolor aside, and we'll get our oils out now. Okay, now as we place our palette like this, by the way, I think I mentioned this on the note that I sent to everyone about the fact that this is alizarin crimson. Let me just say first of all, it's not a good idea to use your oil and watercolor brushes together. They just don't mix. And so I have a set of brushes that I'm using here that come with my oil set. However, some of your sables can be used as far as the round sables, if you have brushes that you maybe prefer a little bit better. So, but I wouldn't mix the ones you use in watercolor with the other. Okay. So here we have our cadmium yellow, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and then this is going to be our viridian, a little heavy on the either linseed oil or whatever they put in there. It's separated. That happens. Take this up like this. I think we should be down to the real color now. Okay, but this is viridian, by the way. There's no hooker's green in the oils. And then get us a little cadmium red, and a little black. And a bit of white. Well, got my burnt sienna. And then white. Hope I have white. Last of all, we'll put our white. Okay. Now I'm going to start with some of these brushes here. Now I'm going to try to set this on the TV on the screen again, similar to what I did the first time, and just show you the similarities in how we do oils. I use just turpentine. Now, if I was doing a more formal art course with you in oils, I'd have other recommendations as far as linseed oil versus other mediums, different things like that. But for what we're doing right now, we're just going to strictly use the turpentine. Now, I get a brand, you get it at Hobby Lobby, called Gemini Masterpiece. It is the only brand that I know of that has no odor to it. They all advertise odor-free, but it's the only one that I know of doesn't have any odor. Okay, now, first thing I want to do is, as we look at this, if you look closely on your photograph, there's a shadow that goes along the side here. It's a kind of a lighter green shadow. So I'm going to start with my Viridian. It's got a little bit of yellow in it, so we're going to mix some yellow. Okay, and I might even put a little bit of blue in it to kind of tone it down, and a little brown to warm it up. Might have put too much brown, but that's okay. And let's put a little bit more yellow, and I think I'm going to have to lighten it up a little bit. Now, let me take a little time and explain to you the importance now of values. Okay, and now I'm going to start here just a second, but I can look at my picture and I have a certain value in mind. Now, some of this initially you may have to do a couple of times, okay? Like when you have an area like this that you want to really stand out, sometimes it just doesn't cover it in one sitting. Now again, we're going to do this similar to what we've been doing. I'm going to start here at the top. Now I can almost look at it and tell it's going to be a little bit on the light side. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit more of the green, and of course when it dries, some of the color under it is going to come through. I'm going to try to get that. We don't want to dilute it too much. Okay, but we do want to get it flowing to a point that I can come down on both sides like this. Well, I may change that. Let me just bring a certain portion down, and then we're going to do this. Okay, and I think that sometimes it's just easier to take the time, turn it around like this, and come back up with it. Okay, now what's nice about oils, whether you're doing it like this or any other way that you're doing it, so I can bring my picture over here now and I can tell that it's really going to be a little bit on the light side. So let's take some blue, ultramarine blue, and the brown, burnt sienna, and let's just come back and mix some color and gray it down a little bit. You see, what's nice about oils, once you get the color in there, look at how easy it is to come back, and while it's still wet, just tone it all down like this. And now that's perfect. Okay, so let's remember that was the nice thing about 8 colors. It makes it a little easier to remember what you're doing. Okay, in a sense that how we're going to make a light, we have a green. How we're going to make a lighter green, we add yellow, and then we add blue and brown if we want to gray it down, pretty much like you do in any color. All right, now I'm going to stop here because, as I said, I don't want to record everything repetitious. You're eager to paint. You've got the picture in front of you, so you can figure it out very easily. Now see, if I find that when I get through this dries a lot lighter than I think it will dry right now, I'll just come back and do something else. Now I want to go with the green and the yellow, mostly yellow. And then a lot of white. This is, you know, you're getting an effect here where, in fact, I'm going to just make sure this is on the screen. Okay, I'm going to make sure, I might start with a glob of white over here, rather than just, one mistake you want to make, don't want to make with oils, is don't come in and like if you mix a certain amount of color, keep adding white, because you never know how much white you need. And as a result of it, it's going to kind of go overboard with you. So what you do is you take a glob of white and put the white, and you add that color to it. And that's the quickest way I know of to lighten this. Okay. Now, again, let's start at the top. And I want this to really, really be pretty solid. This is going to be almost like what you might call our center of interest. So we're going to start with this right here. Again, I came back with that white. I'm using mostly white. I might have to do this in a couple of coats. You generally have to do that with white, so I'm diluting it a little bit more where it'll fill the paper up nicely for me. This is a lot of fun. So we're going to come like this, bring it around like this. And you just mix it, play with it, you'll get the feel of it. Now before I flip it over and do it on the other side, let's come back in and do this portion right here. Now I've got it diluted a little bit more, and I find it's flowing easier. I know I'll have to touch it up, but once you get that first coat on there, each succeeding coat is going to be very, very easy to do. So I'm going to come down like this. Now you'll notice everyone pretty well knows what I'm going to come around like this, what a make sure this is on the picture. Everyone knows what a shutter looks like, and you have like a facial board around it that it's built around, and just come like this, really bring that in there very nicely. And so what we're doing is we're putting in this highlight area. Now I'm going to bring it around like this, and this really looks pretty good when it dries, but sometimes after it dries for a while it might appear to be a little lighter than you wanted it to be. No big deal to come in and just put another coat on it. See, once you get that first coat on, everything's a breeze. So we're going to come in and do this. Oh man, would you look at that. Let's get this. This is so much fun. We've got to see more of this. Let's bring it on down. Then we're going to come back like this. See, we're going to do the other side. Those nice clean lines. Love it. This stuff is so smooth and goes on so beautifully. It's just beyond comprehension, really. Now, we'll flip it around one more time. Make sure this is on there. And we'll do this. Okay. Now, the inside of this shutter is somewhat of a lighter green. In fact, pretty close to the green we had on the side. See, now that I've got this, now let me show you how easy it is to come back. This is a little bit of the ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Let me clean this brush real good. Now, as I've looked at this some more, burnt sienna, excuse me, the ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, burnt umber, whatever color I'd happen to be using, that's generally what I use for my darks. Okay, now we just, we can just keep playing with this. Now this is going to see what's different in this and most oils. This is setting up already. You see, so we just can come. Now I'm getting a little dry brush in there. I think all of you should know what dry brush is. That's where you just get your brush to a consistency. And see, when I squint my eye now, that's really going down to the value level that I would like it to be down to. I don't want it to be highly recognizable, but I do want you to be able to see it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here, and we're going to take a little bit more of that Viridian, cadmium yellow, and we might put a little of the blue and the brown just to tone it down a little bit. I don't want to put too much brown. Let's go back in with a little bit more blue, a little bit more of the green now, and a little bit more of the yellow. I love just mixing your colors like this. Then when we get close to what I think is the right color, I'm going to go over to the white, and I'm going to add the white to it, and it's going to pretty well give me what I'm looking for. Now this is maybe still got a little more blue in it. Let's not put too much. Everyone, I think, knows that those shutters, they have a greenish bluish tint to them. Sometimes very close to what I call the Depression area outhouses. And I don't know if any of y'all would know what I'm talking about, but back during the Depression, the federal government had WPA projects that built outhouses for people, and they were a certain green. And I tell you what, I did a composition for painting for a lady one time, and I tell you what, I learned what that green was, because she made me work on that thing till I got it exactly like she wanted it. Now I still want to put a little more blue. Now this is not going to be put on thickly. I've got a lot of color under it. I just want to tint it. Hopefully my lines will show through. This is going to be perfect. So I want that outside border to be the main part of it. This is going to be perfect. And as you get to do this enough, you're going to find that it really works better than you can dream, or you would have ever dreamed that it works. Now, I may wait and let this dry. Now what's happening, I'm tinting this over it. Oh, I love this. This is really coming out exciting. And now here's where I'm utilizing that underpainting. You see, I wanted to have a consistency under it in the color, so that no matter what section of this thing I'm painting, it's going to have the same effect. You see, and so one of the ways is to, with this oil, what I like about it, see, I'm diluting this pretty heavily now. But depending on the different types of pigment that you're using, whether it's oil or watercolor or whatever, everything's going to dry a little bit differently. Okay. Come down with a little bit more of this. It's going to start drying on you real quick. Those of you that have worked in oil, this is going to surprise you. But what I want you to notice is the ease in which it covers. It's just really amazing. Now, what I'm trying to do is to get something here where these lines will show through when it dries. I hope they do. And so I really am very satisfied with my color and my values. And remember, we're using the Viridian. If you want to write this down, we're using Viridian. We're using cadmium yellow. And then we'll use burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, whatever stages that we want to for the lighter part and the darker part. but we don't want this shutter to have predominant darks in it. So let's, because of the darks that will be surrounding it, let's take our time now, and let's go ahead and let this dry. And I think my lines are going to come through. See, all I want is a guide line so that you can understand what's happening in perspective. See, the perspective is going to go this way. It's like a fan. As it comes down, it's going to come to here. And as it comes down further, your horizon line is about right here. It's where your eye level is, see? And then you're going to come back, it's going to start going this way. Very, very crucial. Okay, I'm very satisfied with this. Let's go ahead and turn the video off and let you go ahead and do it and complete the entire thing. Okay, rather than going in and finishing the lines on this, I want to come back to that in just a moment. I'd like to just mention a couple of things to you that as we go through this with the oils, dilute the pigment to the point that you can control it. As you've noticed, and I explained this to you in the beginning, I'll mention it again because it's a little unusual concept. There is a flashing that takes place when you, for whatever reason, when you put this oil and the alcohol and the turpentine and everything on this painting. As you're noticing, the colors, even the whites, they just dry instantly. I can just rub all of this down and it's on there, and it's permanent. And so we just want to remember, don't fight it. If you have any special help with it, that you need with it, I'll be glad to come and help you, because what we're doing now, we're kind of expediting things by me only doing a small amount, which I'm gonna, and rather than finishing this just a small area like this, we're gonna go ahead and move this out a little bit. See, I love you can just come back and correct and do different things like this if you don't mess it up again like I just almost did. All right, so how you can easily come with that. So what I'm getting is trying to say to you is get your first tone in there, and then after you get your tone in, it'll dry unevenly. You might want to put a quick second coat in the areas that show up. But see, this really is no problem. And I think even places where the color underneath it comes through gives it an antiquing effect that I think's quite unusual. So rather than going into the line work on this now, because all we have to do is this, the window, and this, which will go very quickly. Then we're going to start our foliage and finish it. I'd like to go to the windows, and I thought it might be easier to do the windows if we go ahead and take some ultramarine blue and burn umber and just do that now. So again, I'm going to do one window pane, and I'm going to illustrate to you how to do it. We're going to go with the blue and the brown. Now you have to remember, the blue tend to be swallowed up with the warmer colors, the earth colors, and so we want to make sure we get that in there like we want it. Might put a little bit of alizarin crimson in it, and what we're going to do is we're going to take it a window pane at a time. We're not going to actually do that, and you should at this point still be able to see your lines. And so again, we're going to turn this over this way. In this case, I'll do a couple of them for you. Now, right up at the top, I like it to always be the darkest. Now, let's see if I can lift this a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of glare. Okay. Well, we can see it a little bit more clearly. Oh, look at this. Is just the most wonderful stuff to work with. So I'm going to come down like this. Okay, and then we're going to come over in this top tier. We want these really, really strong darks, picking up what's in the area there. But as we go down, you're going to see where I'm going to dilute it like a watercolor. And we're actually going to come back in there and let's just do this. And we'll fill in these, we'll allow a lot of the color under here to come through. Now we're going to turn it sideways like this. Let's make sure I'm on the camera. Okay. And you can see this. Second stage, we're going to come in and remember, This is the ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, a little bit of red. We're going to come back like this. There's not too much up here to do. And we're going to flip it around again. Now these opaque colors like this that you're putting on pretty strongly, they should work real well. Okay, now notice how we're coming back like this. Let me make sure my head's not in there. And then we're going to do this right here. Now I want to do this one, and since we did the one, I started the one next to it, I'm going to go ahead and finish it for you. Now again, you see I'm just flipping that paper around, using that round brush. Now what you're going to find that we're going to do a lot of this with a round brush too. And you might get to a point that some of the areas that are not quite as critical, see, you'll find yourself going to this flatter brush. That's what the brush is for, you see. And I love the flats, as you notice in the watercolor. They keep a lot of paint, and they keep you mostly from getting too detailed. Okay, I hit a little white on that accidentally. Now let's turn it back around again. Now as you notice, in this particular, the paint over here, I kept it pretty black up against the borders. But as I come to the second one, that's the one I want to do for you now. I'm going to come in here with the black at the top. And you can create a lot of interest with these paints. Now let's go back to the blue again. We get some brown, a little bit of crimson. And I think that crimson gives you a nice richness. Putting this on a little bit more thickly, but if it's too thick, I don't mind coming back in. I'm going to try to do this like this. Okay, it's working fine. Now see, as I come down this way, I'm just going to handle it like a watercolor. I'm going to bring it down like this, and I'm going to just clean my brush and just drag that turpentine down. Let some of that pure color stand through at the bottom, see? So it gives you somewhat of what you might want to call a kind of an underpainting type effect. Now, sometimes I want a little more red in some of these areas, so it doesn't work quite as well on a wash, but anyhow, we can allow it to come through. We want to just get some variety in the window panes. Now, I think that's enough information for you to go ahead and complete this section. So let's just do all the window panes. Notice where it's lighter, leave the lights in, and creates interest, and so forth. Okay? Add that as we're completing the window panes, the areas where the flowers are, we don't want to paint into that area. That's why I outline them for you like that. Okay? So let's complete this portion of the project. Okay, as we begin our next section, I'd like to come in now and do the actual windows. Okay, we might, if you don't understand exactly what's going on underneath there, I'll come check them individually for you. Okay, now what I've actually done, if you remember, I started with this lighter area, and we completed this, and then the next area I started with was a couple of the actually glass panes. You completed that, so we want to now go to the windows and the actual inside part of the frame here. That's what we want to go to next, okay? So we're going to take a little bit of again, we're going to stick with that alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, makes a very pretty color. We're going to maybe put a tiny bit of brown with it. We'll let that blue stand out predominantly now, because we've had a lot of the, remember we got blue, alizarin crimson, a little bit of brown, and we're going to have a little bit of white. The reason I want it to be a little bit more bluer, actually, it's not that big a deal, but we have so much red and the kind of a violet color around it that I thought would be a nice change to have a little more emphasis on the blue. Now, I'm playing with this long enough to where I can get it what I think will be correct. And so what I like about the oils, when you're doing this, you can put your brush up. Now, I thought that was right on the money. Instead, it's quite a bit too light. So now that's going to be a little bit more like what we want. Okay, now it's hard at this point to. Now I might drop down to that smaller round brush here. And we'll dilute it, and again, this will be something we'll probably have to go over a couple times. But we're going to bring it on down like this. Let's see what happens. Now you see, if you have a real steady hand and you play with this, you can almost do it with one stroke. Now, I've done sign painting and a lot of things like that, so it makes it a little bit easier for me to handle the brush. Plus, you know, just the experience of doing it every day of my life now for the last 50 years. But that's the nice thing about having the right brushes and getting to see someone do this, because you can at least see it and understand how to do it. Now, if it doesn't come out exactly even, I'm not worried about that. I go a little bit thicker with it. And that's due to the fact that I probably should be doing a small section and turning it around, but that's okay. It's not that big a deal. All right, we're going to do this, and then we're just going to continue right on down, and we're going to do the next one. Now, this is all going to be controlled by the pressure on the brush and the amount of pigment that you have. So we just basically want to bring this down like this, and again, I'm not really worried about it being exactly perfect. Now I'm going to see what happens when it dries. It looks like it might be drying a little bit lighter than I thought it would, and if it does, we'll cover that when we get finished with it. Okay, now we're going to come back over here. Let's make sure this is on the screen. Okay. Now, one of the things I might mention to you, this is really what's so important about having the right equipment and having your work planned to where you really have a pretty good idea of what you're going to do. Okay, now we've got that part of it completed, and now likewise, we're going to probably tone this down a little bit later, but we want to put the outside of the window, the frame structure of it here. I'm still using that number 2, and if you're wondering why, it's just because that's what I happen to have in my hand. Okay. Now we're going to tone this down a little bit later, so it's not necessary to really be that perfect. And as you stand up and you look at this from a distance, it really begins to look totally different. We've got that part, and then we're going to come up here. A little unwanted color there. Now quite a bit of this is going to be darker a little bit later, but I think that fits the bill for what I want it to be. Oh, let me just finish. I'm going to just do this top one, then we'll let you do the bottom one. And now it's not really clear on my drawing, but I'll probably have y'all correct it. You know, when I did this watercolor study of it pretty quickly, and a lot of time. There you go. Now the only thing we're going to do differently down here is as we come in with this next window, we're going to, well, let me just go ahead and finish this, because we're going to bring this in a little closer and also leave a little space at the end of this so it looks like the window is receding behind it just a little bit and has room to so let's move that over just a small amount so we don't distort everything too much. We'll do the same thing down here, and that way whenever we show the inside wall here, we'll go ahead and clarify what actually happens, and I'll explain that a little bit more to you in a minute. Because what happens is that we have a wall that comes down, and because this window is receded a little bit more, it's going to actually it's actually going to have a little bit of darker area that comes in. But see, I'm not really trying to be too fancy with that part of it, as I mentioned. So let's not get carried away with it. Okay. Now, just have a couple more. This, and actually this could have come back a little bit more, but since we have that line drawn there, we're just going to leave it. Okay, now up here I might want to subdue some of this just a tiny bit by actually coming back with a darker line. I felt like I might have got a little thick on these. So I've still got some of that good dark color mixed up that I use, and we'll show it like it's part of the side of the frame. However, it'll totally disappear in a minute, and then we're going to come up here and do the same thing. Okay, now let's let that go ahead and dry, and I'll let you, let's go ahead and do that part of it now. Finish up the window pane. Okay, let's go to the next portion now that I'd like to go to, and it's going to be where we're going to start at the top of this. Now we have to make sure we understand, this is a little bit confused on the drawing, but there's a facial board out here that this is going to be attached to, and then here this is where the window goes back, and then the back window comes up. Now we really want to lose a lot of that and not have too much information to define it, but a couple of things I think are kind of important. That is, let's start at the top, and let's say if this is encased directly in the mortar there. I'm having a little problem here with this glare. Okay, then I want to kind of come in and I want a very definite line going across here. Like that. And then I really want this to be brought down a little bit. Really give the feeling that it's receding. So we're going to come around like this, and then I'm actually going to just bring a little bit of it down here and let it fade. Okay. Now, the next thing, I could have left a little bit of that lighter. Okay, let's see if I can lift a little bit of this. Might be still wet enough for me to do that. Well, it's an easier way to do it. That oil, when I tell you, it sticks to it once you put it on there. Let's take a little bit of the alizarin and a little bit of the blue. And I know I got this a little darker than I wanted to. It's no big deal. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of pigment and I'm going to come right back behind it. And I'm going to kind of show some reflected light. Same way over here. That's the nice thing again about the oils. Now this doesn't really, it's really not probably as important as I'm making it to be, but it's just something I really feel needs to be adjusted. So we went ahead and adjusted it. Now right across the top, let's get some more of our ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. Again, we're going to go with the ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, crimson, and a little bit of black. Now this top section here is where I'd like to define, let's see if we can still have this on the screen, okay. I'd like to be able to define this dark section here. Where the frame actually, the top frame goes. And see, then we're going to have this extremely dark area here, so the window stands out. And just hit it with a little bit more. Now, you've probably noticed that sometimes this comes out after it dries a little differently than what you planned. But that's part of really doing this medium. Now here, I did lose my line, which is perfect, because I've got just exactly the value. See, I don't really worry about color. It's the value that I want to be clear. So I'm going to soften this a little bit down here, get rid of that line. Now that really looks like I want it to look as far as the receding part of it. Okay, now as we start coming down, I want to switch a little bit more to burnt sienna. And we're going to just show some rust looking colors in here. And I'll try to kind of layer them in washes like this. The value of the wall is really pretty close to what we want. It just has a little more of a burnt sienna tint to it. And I'd like to do that while I'm still maintaining the kind of a violet look in the other part of it. Now, as I come down, remember I told you about the area where I'm going to just drop it back just a tiny bit. So this is where we're going to do this right here. And just more or less introduce this burnt sienna color that we've been using over here into this area. Just let it all come down like this. Now I like doing the transparent stuff when I can, because I think it really is attractive. Okay, let me just stand back and look. I think that's going to be fine. Now let's turn around now to the portion that's going to be up against the actual shutter. I'm going to go to our really dark color here. I'm going to come down and just really have a very, very strong shadow area. Come up like this. And actually, we're going to bring this out in a way that it's, see, I'm diluting it kind of like a watercolor now. And I'll bring it out to the edge where we want to have a strong black up against that other, against the shutter. But we want this wall to really still, so I have some of the color coming through under it and have that edge defined. Let's see if I can make this a little clearer for you. Okay. Now, I did draw my shutter a little too thick. So, and the nice thing about this, you don't have to be afraid of it. We want to come back and thin this up as it goes up towards the top. It gets really a little too, so I'm not even going to worry about this part. I'm going to go ahead and make it solid, and if we have to do something else to it, we'll do it. And I basically wanted this to be very clear, and more than anything, I want the edges of the wall to be clear. Definition. I don't care if it's lost a little bit every now and then. Okay, let's turn it back around. And it's a little bit glare on it, but what we have now is we have the wall behind here a little bit darker. And now I might have made it a little bit darker than I wanted to towards the bottom. See, and that's really no big problem, because we'll just go to some of this other color, and like if this right here is a little darker than I want it, I'm just going to come back in and glaze some lighter color over it like that, say. And again, you just have all the flexibility in the world to do whatever you want to do to make it work. Okay, now I do need to come back and actually thin this shutter out a little bit. So we're going to come up like this. Do that. Okay. Now that's going to be sufficient for the inner part of this wall. Some of this might be a little bit lighter as I see it on here. I'll take care of that a little bit later. I just want to mainly, let's just get it out of the way and go on to the part that we want to finish now, which is going to be the shutter itself. So let's get just the right color, which would be the, again, we mainly use our ultramarine, alizarin, all these other colors in here. And alizarin, blue, the red, this one's going to have a little more red in it. Where this came out a little darker now. I'll just come in and I'll start dry brushing some similar color over it, but lighter. See, and I'll just blend it in there like that. And this is going to be bordering, getting pretty close to the window color, which is okay. You see how nice and easy it is to mix this color. You just come back over it and touch it up. And yet we really do want it to be pretty well lost. Here we'll maybe let this run together a little bit more. I meant to say we want it to be lost and found. You know, we don't want anything to be so solid that it's boring. So sometimes you have to do this. So I wanted it to have texture, which it does. So I think we're pretty close to what we want here. Just had to lighten it up a little bit. Okay, I think that's going to be sufficient. Now, before I close this part of it, let's hold it up here where you can see it. I might take a little bit of my darker color. Just make a slightly darker section here against that window. And that's what you have to do with this. You just have to keep working it back and forth, concentrating on the values. Okay, also up at the top, I want to dilute my color quite a bit. And I know I want this, so I'm doing this like a watercolor. I want this to be a little bit darker as it proceeds there. Now this is really, really diluted color, like a watercolor. Come back and do the same thing like this. Tone that down. Now, if I need to, I feel like I want to do it, I'll go back, put me a little bit more. You see, because what I'm doing, this is the fun of it, where you're the one choosing, and if you decide things need to be lighter or darker, or for whatever reason, it's real easy to come back and do this. That's the beauty of working in something that's going to be similar to all else. All right, let's come up here, and now this will stand out a lot more when we get the other portion of it done. Let's just see what we have here. Now we'll throw a mat on it. Always seems to dress it up, doesn't it? Okay. I think it's doing exactly what I want it to do as I look at my reference study. And now remember, all of this is backdrop for this flower, or this these flowing leaves and flowers that'll be coming up, climbing that window. So always remember that as you do things like this. Now we have one more thing to do. I think I'll take the picture for you now, and where you'll have the information that you need for this entire area, and then we can come back, finish the shutter, and then we're just about home with it. So let's turn this off. Okay, we're down to the last real portion of this section that we're going to be painting, which is the shutter. And so let's just take and maybe lower this a little bit, where we're focusing mainly on the shutter here. I'll move that over. Now this is going to be kind of strange, because what we're going to basically do, this is very value-wise, it's very dark. Okay, and I purposely had it that way because this is going to really reinforce the dramatic effects of the sun standing out. Now, what we want to do, so now you'll know why we have some of these bigger brushes. We want to get a blue-green. Here's the blue. Again, I'm going to try to do what I can and not lose that. Might put a tiny bit of white in it. Now remember what I mentioned to you about how you can put your color up against here. I know it's a little too dark, so we're going to come here and let's go get some more white. I have a feeling what I'm putting here is going to be way too light now, but that's alright. Of course, we'll keep playing with it till we get it right. It's way too light. So, no problem. Just put us a little, we're just going to cover the whole thing. And I should have put that on my blue. I think we got enough green, but we'll just get a little bit more in there. Okay, here's the green. Again, just a little refresher on this. It's basically going to be green and blue. We just want the right value. And we want it to be a little bit more green than it is blue. So we'll just play with this till we get it. Now see, I'm going to be pretty close to what I want now. Okay, but I'm going to take my picture. I'm going to hold this up like this, and I think you can see. It's just about on the money. If not, it's close enough for this artist. So let's come back over here now. This is where the fun begins, and that you really have an opportunity to really dilute it. Let's start coming down from the top. Get this where you can see it and I can see it. For some reason, this doesn't want to dilute, and I think it's because I'm putting it in water rather than turpentine. Now it's doing what I want it to do. Quite a difference, huh? Now, if I lose my lines, I'm just going to have to turn back around and put them back in again. Now, the verdict's not out on this color yet because I have it a little bit lighter than I think it should be. But it will change dramatically when the color under it comes through and I allow it to dry. Now we're just going to do this first section all the way down. Dilute it as much as possible. Now what's so wonderful about this aspect of it is the fact that we never really know what it's going to look like, but it's so easy to come back and change it. I'm going to turn it around on the bottom now, and I think I'm going to leave that for the moment. I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, I'm going to bring it back around here. I feel like it's a lot of fun with these oils from the standpoint that you can rework them so much. I just covered up some of the flowers, nothing lost. While they're in various stages of drying, they dry so quickly that you can come right back over it again. It doesn't run. You see, again, I'm using the flat brush. I'm about to run out of paint. So we'll have to take a second and mix a little more. Let's get our green, get our blue. Again, we want mostly a greenish effect with it. And then we'll grab a little bit of the white. I think this is going to be pretty close. Right on the money. You see already that's dried enough that I can start coming back with the second coat. But let's get the first coat on it all the way around it. I don't know, this may not really be that bad once I get all of it out. Now we may lose our inner lines, and if we do, we're going to have to just put them back in there again. No big deal. Turn it back around this way. The white got in there. No way we're going to let something like that bother us. We're just going to keep on keeping on. All right. Now, so I got my whole area covered with the first coat. Now, because of the quick drying portion of this, as I'm working, I can come on down a little bit further down here. And I know you're wondering, well, why did you put that other color in there when you're covering most of it up? Well, it's to get the color harmony, to get all the colors used with all the other colors throughout the entire composition. Now we're going to have to let that dry just a second. Let's see what. Okay, as we do this next section I should say, again, I'm only going to do a small portion of it. Let's take the blue and the brown. We want to mix a black, maybe add a little black to it. First thing we want to do is we want to come down the side of this. And I'm going to do just the top part for you, because I think you can follow the rest of it. We're going to come down like this. And I'm going to come over here. I want to come down like this. We want that edge very clearly defined. Okay, now in addition to that, we want to have a line around it like this. I'm using that larger number 4 round, and we want to have another one like this come up. Do it on both sides. Now remember, the other side we did it with value. This time we're going to do it strictly with our line work. Now also, one side of this is going to be a little bit darker. So we're going to just thicker, because this is where the sun is going to be hitting it. So we're going to come back and put that little bit of thickness there, maybe a little bit thicker up here. Okay, now what we want to do, we want to go around all of our lines like this first, and then we're going to conclude this whole section. Okay, now once I would like you to notice this particular thing. Okay, as we get to the very last part of this section here, I put the lines in over here already. And before we kind of go into the finale on this section, let's go ahead and put the final lines on the opposite side. And this is basically what you're going to do here. Let's turn the paper around. Now, because again, the sunlight is hitting on this side, we're going to show a thicker line here. Okay, now this again is just like what you're going to do on the top. And this is actually showing the thickness of that edge that you'd have on shutters like that. And then we'll drag it across here. Okay, now notice I'm not going to put any line here. I will go ahead and finish off this the same way on the bottom. Now when I conclude this, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start like this, and again, remember the little trick we want to be aware of here. I know these lines are kind of hard to see, but what you do is you look at an object like this, and you draw one line kind of in between both of them. See? Then you draw another line here between both of them. And then you draw another line this way like this. And really, I think it's better not to have to follow the lines perfectly. And then we're just going to come in and start putting the shutters in. And notice how I'm stopping abruptly on that other side, so that when I get down here, I may not draw it exactly at the same spot, but it's going to be lined up, you see. And then I'm going to come down like this. I'm going to come down like this. Okay, and then we just keep moving it out until by the time I get down here, they're going to be, so remember, it's like a fan, and then down here there won't be a lot of difference at all. Now when we come up to this section here, it's going to be the same way. It's not quite as accented, but we'll start in the middle, kind of like this, then do another one about halfway like that, another one about halfway like this. See, now this one we're just going to continue straight across. You see, and we're going to connect the lines on both sides, and this really kind of really ties all of this together very nicely. See, I didn't go over the line that I had. So anyhow, that gives you a guideline. Let's go down now and do all the lines here. Okay, now as you can see, we pretty well have the entire windows finished. And I did want to come back and do one other thing though. Whenever, a little trick on doing shutters, whenever you have an area like this that I've already done the others, but you have a cast shadow on shutters, you always like overlapping boards on a framed house. You always want to come back and put that little line sideways, give the slightest indication, it doesn't really matter how much, but of the fact that it's got an angle to it because the shutters are sideways, and it's just enough to give you that little identity thing that really makes a difference. Okay, that's going to pretty well complete this particular part of our painting. The only part we have left to do now is we're going to come down here and start the foliage. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start you in a particular area, and then we're going to go ahead and complete the rest of it. Okay? Let's go ahead and pause and finish whatever other things we need to do on everyone's painting, and then we'll put the finishing touches. Now as we start this last portion on the foliage, one thing that's very critical is we want to get some good middle tones mixed up. So we're going to take that Viridian, which has got a lot of green in it, and we're going to take Viridian and put a little burnt umber with it. Excuse me, burnt sienna. And then we're going to put a little bit of the cadmium yellow. You see, and you can already begin to see this getting into the type of a lighter color that you want. However, I think we'd have to put a little bit more yellow out here, and possibly add a little bit of this to it lightly, because this, I think, is going to be about the color that we would like to have. So we want to start with a lighter color like this, and then once we get this out, we can mix the rest of it as we go along. And then this is going to be somewhat of a more middle tone green now, which is fine. It's just that we needed to get that light color to start with. And then of course then you take your green and your burnt umber or your burnt sienna. And if you wonder why I keep saying burnt umber, I used burnt umber and ultramarine blue for so many years prior to this new palette that I use that I just automatically think of it. Okay, so anyhow, we want to mix just the blacks, basically. We're going to have a light, a middle tone, and a dark, and then whatever other colors that we would like to put into it, okay? Now, let's start like this. And now, the first thing, I may need to get me some more of this green mixed up before we go too far with this, but let me just show you, this is the wonderful part about this. We can just come in and loosen up now and just go right on down. Put our lighter colors in there, they're going to stay very nicely. We get a little more cadmium yellow over here. Our middle tone green, which is going to give us, we need to put a little, just a tiny bit of white in there, just to give it a little bit more body to do what we want it to do. And sometimes, again, you'll have to come back, but see, now we can really paint this more like we were really painting, okay? So we're going to come across like this. Now we also can make it a little darker in some places if we want to. Nothing's cast in stone. But you see, one of the things that really makes your foliage is that you come around the edge like this, and so then I'll start mixing a little bit of green with it in some of these lighter areas like this, the dark or the middle tone color. Maybe add a little white to that middle tone. See, again, you'll have to just kind of play with this on your own palette. Take a little bit of the white to give it a little bit more opacity to that color. Now you see we're coming around here, still basically the same color though. What you want is a rougher edge, and so what we're going to do up here, we're going to pretty well come down with this all the way down to right up. This is going to cover what we're going to basically do on the area here. I'm running out of the video, and I'm trying to now I'm going to come back, trying to keep it from having to start another one that would complicate my recording. See, now we're going to pop it up with a little bit of white if we need to, like this. So now you got to imagine this as it looks like it's going to look in a finished product. Okay, now that's basically what's going to be this whole bottom area here. You just start with the lighter green mixture, but then towards the end of it we're going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna and red, and we're just going to come back in and then take a little yellow and put that in there. So that yellow is going to give us a nice orangey color. And we're going to put some of this fall looking foliage. Well, let's see if I can get that a little stronger now. There we go. Oh, that looks pretty, glazing that over there like that. Okay, and as we come down, that's really going to be the mixture for this entire area other than what we do when we come back in and touch it up. Now down here we'll have some darker sections, and we'll pick that up a little bit later. Okay, let's let me turn off the video now, and I'm gonna let you get started until we do the last section there. Now I want you to notice that as I've gotten this built up to a certain point, I'm going to take a little bit of my plain burnt sienna just to give a little more contrast. Break this up a little bit. You saw how I used the white and all that kind of, that's all stuff I'm getting from my picture, just like you can. But what I want to show you more than, to me it's one of the most important aspects of this here, and the nice thing about oils is after I get it to a certain point now, there are sections down here where I don't want it to be quite as, see where I mix that black at now. I don't want it to be quite as solid, because to me breaking that solid part up is a big part of the success or failure of this thing. So I'm just going to take my brush now, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to dab around a little bit, and notice now I've developed a mass here, and I want to come back in and just subdue it and break it up. So even though the paint here is still a little bit wet, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this and more or less have a little bit more control of the shape and this type of thing. So this is, I think, a very important part of this that I wanted to be sure and cover with you before you go too far into it. And I know these whites and all probably look a little bit crazy, but I tell you what, a little bit later on when you see this thing completed, you're going to see how powerful that is and why it jumps out and stands out like it does. Well, we now come to the last part of our composition. If you recall, we had a short demonstration of how to cluster your foliage here and let it climb out a little bit and cover some light against dark type situations and so forth. As we come down here, we get into a little bit larger mass, and I think that from your photographs you can just determine where the middle tones, lights and darks are. And this is sometimes simpler type things that are a little bit more complicated, and they need to be simplified. And so whenever we get started on that part of it, I'll come around to each of you and help you do a little section once you get enough of it completed on there for me. But anyhow, this is the conclusion of our painting. And now as you look at your final picture, you're going to see some areas I changed and corrected and worked around a little bit, and we'll kind of, most of that we've picked up as we've gone along. But I appreciate being with you all and enjoy doing this. Hope everybody had a good time.